Did you know there are as many as 9 ways to outline your book, and technically 10 if you count AI nowadays? So, hi, welcome. My name is Elke Feuer. I'm an author and a fiction book coach. And I just wanted to come on and share with you 3 elements to help you outline your book. So, as I mentioned, there are as many as 9 methods to outlining your book, and technically 10 nowadays if you include AI. And that's a method that I've used on a very small scale to help with mapping out my 3-book series. So because of that, that's why I don't necessarily think there's a right or a wrong way when it comes to outlining your book, even if you're a pantser and you don't outline at all. And if you're wondering, like, what are those 9 methods? How can I find out more about them? I want you to check out a video that I did, and it's called 9 Ways to Plot Your Book. And I'll leave the link in the comments below so that you can check it out for yourself. Because when it comes to outlining, there are many different ways to do it. So you want to check out and see which one is going to work for you. So I'm going to share with you, as I mentioned, 3 elements to outlining your book. The first is to decide what book is it that you want to write. And the reason why this is important is you want to choose the book as more than just, oh, it's a random book that I'm choosing, or, oh, this is the next one on the list. Not to say you can't do it that way, but if you're just starting out, it's important to be very clear about the book that you're going to write. Otherwise, you could run into problems later on within a few chapters because it's not necessarily the book that you're the most passionate about, or you're really just not the book that's in your heart to write. So that's why I always say it's really important to be clear about the book that you want to write before you get started. And you want to make sure that it's the book that you want to write right now. I know that seems crazy. It's like, oh, I've got so many book ideas. Why this book right now? Trust me, it'll make a big difference when you're actually getting in and starting to write it. The next thing you want to look at is your, what I call, story basics. And this is very basic. The first is the genre that you want to write. And if you know the subgenres as well too, I would include that. This is going to help you with your research. That's a whole other video. I'm not going to dive into that, but it will help you with your research on what the different genre that you want to write and any subgenres, so that you can make sure that you are writing within whatever those quote unquote rules are for that genre. That will just make it a lot easier when you're, for various reasons. Also, with your story basics, you want to look at who your book is for, and what that is, that's your audience, who you're writing the book for. And what I like to think about, because I know sometimes it's like, well, it's for everybody, or I want all people who like to read fantasy. But the truth is, like for myself, I write romantic suspense, which there are so many subgenres, it's mind-blowing. And then there's tropes to think about. So these are some of the things, what I recommend to writers when they're thinking about the genre, or who their audience is, I should say, who they're writing the book for, is to try to be as detailed as possible. Think about the kind of books that you like to write, or sorry, not write. Think about the kind of books that you love to read. Are they, like for me, I like beta males. I like stories that are happily ever after. So there's a lot of different elements in that, because that will help you with who the audience is, which will in a sense help you with your marketing. So the next basic story element is, who are your main characters? Who are they? Are they male, female? Are they just, one main male character? And also, what is it that they want to achieve? Like, what is their goal? And what's keeping them from reaching that goal? Like, for instance, I like to write, and another thing to think about, I like to write about interracial couples. So that is something for me with my characters that I have to take into consideration, because that's usually a specific audience as well too, as well as how I develop my characters based on the story that I'm going to write and how they're going to fit into that story and their overall character arcs, as well as how they're going to achieve the goals along the way. Next element, the third and final element, is what I like to call the 1-page summary. Within the 1-page summary, you're going to be looking at a bunch of different things that I recommend including, and The first thing is your hook. And what your hook is, it could be, some authors like to use like the first couple of sentences that are going to grab the reader. I personally like to have it within the first paragraph or the first scene of the book, so that it's a little bit more than just one sentence and then it's like, oh, okay, it's kind of anticlimactic. But it depends on what your story is. But that's one thing to think about, is to have your hook. What is that hook that is going to drive or pull those readers in from the first part of the book? The next thing you want to look at is creating your premise or your elevator, what I like to call your elevator pitch. And this is basically, tell me in one sentence what your story, or a couple of sentences, what your story is about, which is not always easy, but trust me, you will use it for everything and anything going forward when you're trying to market, promote your book. So these are why some of these fundamental things are really important to have from the beginning and to think about developing as you're creating your outline. The other thing you want to look at is, where is your story going to be set? This could be a specific location, a town, a country, a specific time period, all these things to think about, because this is where it would help you with research. Trust me, huge help. And the last thing you want to do to look at is, what is the event that starts the story? What is, some people call it the inciting incident that triggers your character to get out of where they're at and start their journey. And you want to be clear about what that is, as well as to mark out or map out as many things as you can that you know that are going to happen for the character along the way as they're trying to achieve their dreams, and everything that is coming up to get them from achieving that goal. And from when the incident started to the end of the book, as much as possible. Let's face it, when we first start, we don't know all of these things, and you don't have to know all of them, but if you do, it's just good. Or if you have an idea in your mind from now, I find it's important to write it down, so that if you get to a part in the book where you do get stuck, you're not having to do it from memory, like, what was it I wanted to happen again? I don't remember. You've got it, you can look back at it. If it changes, that's okay. If you're like me, where you like flexibility, it doesn't have to be set in stone. And that's another reason why I like this. I do have a very deep, comprehensive outline that I use, but I start with these story basics and then go from there. The important thing, I think, to remember when you're developing your outline is that there is no right or wrong way. The most important thing is to find a method that works for you and helps you to develop your stories, and also in a way that helps you to write them and do it consistently. And then also to remember, it's okay to change the method that you use and try different things. I do that all the time, or I should say I did that all the time. I pretty much stick to the outline that I have right now, but occasionally, if I don't have all the elements, but the story is just the characters are talking and they're ready to go, then I'll just dive right into the story and then I'll come back. Come back to the outline later. And that's one of the wonderful things about outlines. They don't have to be this structured thing that you have to start before you start writing, or that you have to do before you start writing. It can be something that you're doing while you're writing the story. So if you're like me, where you like the flexibility, just keep that in mind as well too. Outlines don't have to be stagnant, these stagnant things that you have to stick to and that you have to do before you start writing. But they are good to have, because I like to say that they act as roadmaps as you're writing your story, so that if you get stuck along the way, they can help you to get out of that rut, or get out of maybe the wall that you backed yourself, or you've written yourself into. And I think the biggest bonus about outlines, and starting with the elements that I mentioned, is that they really help you with developing your characters, developing a little bit more outside of the standard, this is a checklist, this is how you develop your characters. Ask yourself all these questions about your characters and all that. Not that those things aren't useful, especially if you need them, but I find that those are I find them a bit dry. I use them when I need to, but if they don't work for you, that's okay. Whereas sort of using the one-page summary and the story basics, I find that those are really helpful. Like I mentioned, for research, I find that I use them to help me to develop my book description as well as my marketing for my book. So there's a lot of really great elements or things that come out of using these elements and using an outline as well too. So that's something to consider as a great benefit for having an outline for your book. If you would like to have help with creating a more comprehensive outline or just diving deeper into these 3 elements, I want to invite you to sign up for my free online video training. And it's basically 5 days, and it takes you through, it comes with a comprehensive workbook as well as short videos, no more than 10 minutes, because to me it's really important that you get the information you need and you can get started and get writing. And the videos come, you can watch them, binge watch them all at once, or they'll come in your email box every day. And there's a little bonus one on the 5th day, I like to call it a bonus, where it gets you thinking about your mindset and a few little things to get you so that you get off to a good start writing. So I will leave the link for that in the comments below, and you can check that out and see if that's something that you're interested in. I also have a checklist as well too. That is what I call the checklist bundle. It's got tons of checklists. If you prefer checklists, you can check that out as well too. I'll leave the link below for that. And thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you found this training helpful. And share with me in the comments, of course, if there's a specific outlining method that you like to use, or if you are a pantser or a plotter, if you're somewhere in between like me, share and tell me your method for outlining in the comments. All right, take care, and I'll see you in the next video.